Hey, welcome in. Let the good vibes all begin. Something good is about to happen. Sure. I've been waiting on you. Got a seat with your name. Started with a coffee chat. Now we about to change the game. You got a story worth telling, and I got a room full of ears. So drop whatever you've been holding. Get ready because your time is here. Because when real people talk to real people, something shifts. When real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it past. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. This is your moment, come near. Where every story intersects and every heart connects. From a coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. Carrie Connects. Entrepreneurs, voices, friends, where inspiration never ends. You did not come this far just to sit in the back. Everything you walk through was getting you ready for that. So step into the light. Let somebody see your face. Because the right conversation can change everything in this place. Because real people talk to real people, something shifts. And real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it bright. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. This is your moment, come near. Where every story intersects and every heart connects. So the coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. We started over coffee just to see if it was real. Yeah, you opened up and showed me everything you feel. Now the world is watching and they say the very best chance. Carrie Connects is where somebody finally cares. Show up, show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects, Carrie Connects. Listen, you know it, come near. Every story intersects and every heart connects. From the coffee chat to the main stage, just be who you are. Carrie Connects. Real conversations, real connections. This is Carrie Connects. Show up.
All right, welcome. I am super excited to be here with my amazing guest, Mr. Stanley Greene. And so you guys are in for a real treat. Stanley is the president and CEO of PowerThinking Corporation, a positive psychology expert, and the co-founder of the Resiliency School of Japan, where he serves as a master trainer for business leaders in Tokyo. His training is built on research from the University of Pennsylvania, and he has also brought it to leaders and agents at Aflac, Merck, and Comcast. For 15 years, he's been teaching this powerful idea that optimism is a skill and you can build it. Stanley, welcome to the show. So before we dive in, tell everybody in a sentence or two in your own words, if I left anything off, who you are and what you do.
Well, Coach Carrie, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be on your program. You do such a great job, and so thank you for that. So, President of Power Thinking, and I have always been about helping people. And I've run many companies in different industries, and the goal was always help to elevate them, to help them be more optimistic and help them bounce
Mm-hmm.
back from life's adversities, and that's what we do at Power Thinking.
I absolutely love that. I think that is phenomenal. So take me back to 2011 because you didn't just start this company. I know that you went out and you bought the rights to resilience training. I remember we talked about that when we had our coffee chat. It was built by the researchers at University of Pennsylvania. So what did you see in all that research where you were like, gotta have it?
Yeah, so the research goes back to a key discovery in the late '60s by the father of the new branch of psychology called positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman, where he discovered that people, through a series of experiments, that people can actually fall into a state of helplessness, where
Mm-hmm.
even though there's a way up and out, there are folks who think that they're powerless when they're not. Again, the word powerless, they're powerful. So
Mm-hmm.
fast forward many years after their decades of research, I came across a company in 2005 called Reflective Learning, and they were a bunch of investors that were funding this company. One of them was a descendant of a founder of a brokerage, and he was also the son of a man who was on the team that invented nylon,
Oh,
groundbreaking
wow.
discovery, um, Joe Hill. So he was one of the lead investors, and they put a lot of money into creating two 6-hour courses on resilience. One called Resilience Online, one called Off the Power. One was for adults, one was for teens. They were trying to sell the one for adults to companies for their employees, and the one for teens to school districts. And we're talking now about 2005. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, this is the ultimate for me, given what I've done with many teams and companies as an employee, turning companies around. I'd love to be the CEO of this company. Well, they already had one, but they went about 5, 6 years in trying to sell, these courses, and they weren't hitting their numbers. The investors ultimately shut it down, and I bumped into
Mm.
the lead investor one day, and asked him how the company was doing. He said, "Well, we kind of halted things." And I said, "Hey, well, I'd love to buy it." And ultimately, he gave me that opportunity, and we did a deal. I created Power Thinking Corp in 2011, and we acquired that company, Reflective Learning LLC, that had the members of the research team at Penn on their staff. They actually created the online um, courses. So it was just an honor. I knew we were early, though. See, back
Mm-hmm.
then, this mental health wasn't talked about the way it is today. It was still stigma associated with getting help. And
Mm.
but today, folks are more receptive to it. And I knew that I was early and I just needed to hang on. So instead of getting investors and then ultimately being forced out if things didn't work out or getting into significant debt, I bootstrapped it, myself over time. And we pivoted ultimately away from the 6-hour long course. I mean, attention spans are not even 6 minutes, as you know, as a
Right.
teacher, it may be about 60 seconds, but you can't catch them in the first few seconds. You're done. So
Yeah.
I knew that we had to ultimately scrap the course, and we pivoted to weekly phone calls, and now ultimately to an app that's sending positive messages to people through push notifications.
Now, when you talk about that acquisition, which I love, seeing the value in something and not being afraid to go after what you want, that's living the power thinking concept in real time. And I just love, love, love the name Power Thinking. It's an amazing app.
Thank you.
So break it down for me like I'm brand new. I'm on the app, but tell our audience what is it?
Well, this mobile app. Let's think about apps like Calm and another app called Headspace. They're popular apps, very valuable apps, and widely used. But
Mm-hmm.
both apps have one thing in common, and that is they focus on just one of the skills that power thinking focuses on. They
Mm-hmm.
focus on meditation. So there are a lot of meditation videos and exercises. So the goal is to help you when you're really stressed out and experiencing high levels of various negative emotions like anxiety and anger and so forth, that they can help to calm you down. Also help you sleep at night through
Okay.
sounds and music, and so that's great. We go beyond that. We're helping people to deal with the thinking and give them power over their own thinking so that they don't get as stressed out in the first place.
Oh.
And what they found at the University of Penn's Positive Psychology Center was that folks can actually, uh, through being more aware of their thoughts, and when their thoughts may be going awry, they may have
Mm-hmm.
erroneous thoughts and jump to conclusions without evidence and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
When we give them that knowledge that there is such a thing as mind reading, where you think you know what somebody's thinking, but you really don't, and you're more aware of it, you now have the power to challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts.
Which is extremely powerful. And a lot of people may not realize that they have the ability to control their mind. And there's so many great videos, there's so many great messages, there's so many great moments through the Power Thinking app. But the one that really gets to me is you teach that optimism is not a skill. You teach that your personality, I believe you said, is born with it. So if somebody is saying, no, that's just not who I am, are they wrong about that?
Well, they may be wrong about who they can be. See, many people are
Mm.
stuck on, this is how I operate. Someone pushes my buttons or I'm triggered. This is how I respond. I'm an introvert. That's just who I am. Don't
Okay.
expect me to get in front of a big crowd and speak. And so folks will, over a period of time, and it usually, this process starts when, they're, just months uh, out of the womb, to the point where they're about 8 years old, where they get locked in on who they are, what they can and cannot do, and they can be totally wrong.
Mm.
And they, what they may not realize, what most people don't realize, is that they can actually change. And one of the groundbreaking discoveries for me about myself is that while I was relatively quiet, shy, introverted, and afraid to speak in front of more than four people at one time, that I can learn how to overcome that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And through one of our strengths we have called reaching out, which is a strength and not a weakness. I didn't recognize that that was some resilience, inner strength. But what I did know was that if I was going to progress in terms of my career, and the first company I worked at out of college, which is Verizon, that if I was going to be a leader and move through the ranks, I needed to acquire this skill of speaking in front of people and overcome, those the anxiety associated with that most people have. And so I
Mm-hmm.
joined an organization called Toastmasters. So if you haven't heard of it, look it up. There are chapters all over the world. There's one probably within 30 minutes of where you live. Join it, and now you can get over all of that, those the anxiety, and you can build, the skill of public speaking, which most people fear, in a safe environment. But that's just one example. Anywhere we have doubts about our abilities,
Mm-hmm.
we can overcome those and actually elevate. And I've seen it before power thinking was formed, long before power thinking was formed. And I came across this incredible material, this framework that we use through the app. I believed, I witnessed it, was able to experience it, where we were able to take people who were called incompetent, that they They screwed up a company. I was told to come into this company, fire certain people, uh, but I kept them all. I didn't bring in my own people, and we turned this small cable company around from number 11 out of 13 cable systems to number 2 in a year and a half, and
Wow.
became the model for the entire company. It was absolutely amazing, and it was one of the groundbreaking discoveries that I had in my career as a leader that convinced me that every single person has an area where they're absolutely excellent. And then where they're not excellent, they can be excellent. And the goal is to help them to tap in to this untapped power. Most of it lies in their thinking,
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
thinking, to get to where they need to be.
I appreciate that. No, you said most people are excellent in something, and I talk to a lot of people, and they feel like they aren't good at anything, or they try and be a master of everything. How do you figure out what your one thing is that you're excellent in, or can you just be excellent in multiple areas?
Well, there are folks who have worked hard enough to be excellent in multiple areas.
Okay.
So that is possible, and there are the folks you've seen that who have achieved at very high levels. Um, but there are ways that you can determine if you're excellent, and the easiest way is through feedback.
Mm.
No, I remember playing basketball in high school, and then of course in college, and I played for a legendary coach, Chuck Daly, who coached the Detroit Pistons, and Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas, the two NBA championships. He coached the first Dream Team in the Olympics in '92 with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and Charles Barkley and all of those tremendous athletes. Um, so uh, he would give me feedback, and when I played, I would get feedback from folks that, hey, you had a great game, and I would say, well, I would always focus on what I didn't do well.
Mhm.
And they said, oh,
Yeah.
you really have a great shot. Well, I really need to work harder on it. Take that and embrace it and recognize that you're very good, if not excellent, at least in that.
Right.
And so many times we'll have a tendency to try to minimize, you know, that feedback, that positive feedback. So be more observant of the feedback that you're getting about maybe your cooking skills or driving skills or um, your ability to educate people, to make them feel good, and embrace that. So this speaks to one of our skills called avoiding thinking traps. There are 8 different
Mm.
thinking traps developed by a prominent psychologist, one of the fathers of what's called cognitive behavioral therapy, Dr. Aaron Beck. And you know, we tend to jump to conclusions. We tend to beat ourselves up, and I used to do that.
Mhm.
Beat yourself up too much.
Mhm.
We maybe blaming others. So we have to stop doing that. But here's another thinking trap we need to be aware of, and that is minimizing the positive things that are happening in our lives and then magnifying the negative.
Mhm.
So throughout the course of the day, if there's something bad that's happened that's helped, had us angry or sad, experiencing a negative emotion at a high level or anxious, we'll tend to dwell on that. And
Mhm.
then, actually describe the entire day as a complete loss because of that one incident.
Mhm.
And in our app, just last night, for example, we sent out a notification, at about 9:30 p.m. in the evening, saying, "Hey, folks, remember, to write down 3 good things that happened today." This was developed by Dr. Martin Seligman. It's a very simple exercise, and it's
Mhm.
used by psychologists all over the world as one of the exercises they give to their people. It's a simple but powerful exercise because what it does then is challenge these thoughts that the day was a complete loss because somebody cut you off on the road in the morning on your way to work. you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Um, So yeah, we have to be aware, more aware of what's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
be in a position to challenge those negative thoughts, and embrace the positive. Embrace the things that you do well and recognize that, yes, this may be your area of excellence. So, how do you build on that and then work on some of the other areas? And that's what we used to do with our performance reviews. Instead of doing a performance review for folks when I was running companies and teams
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the year, so I call this the leave them alone zap. So, somebody may
Right.
not be performing well, and then you zap them at the end of the year and say, "Oh, by the way, you did a horrible job this year."
Oh no.
And they're like, "Oh, why didn't you tell me so that I could have a chance to improve?" So we would do every six
Right.
months, and we sit down, and it wasn't about how to bash somebody and point out
Mm-hmm.
all the things they were doing wrong, but to say that this is all about development. And we would actually have them do a performance review on themselves. And the first thing I would
Mm-hmm.
ask, if we're talking about, you know, um, their proficiency, uh, what did you think? How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And people were
Mm-hmm.
usually a little tougher on themselves. And I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
here's where I had you. And here's how you can get to the next level over the next 6 months. So it gives them
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity to improve. So you're getting like the behind the scenes, the what goes into what we do with power thinking, what power thinking is all about. It's through years of experience working with individuals and teams, and then seeing them grow and excel, and actually hearing, maybe at the holiday party at the end of the year from their significant others who would come up and say, "Oh, you've made our home life so much better." I would tell my wife,
Oh.
after being a couple, I said, "Okay, watch what happens at the Christmas party." And
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was just a fun thing to see. And it was all because we help people, to tap in to the power that they have.
I love that. And I love the idea of saying positive things to people because so often we just hear the negative. And what you said rings true that a lot of times when people could be on a journey of alignment and looking for their excellence, they start looking at all of the things that are not going well. And so, even for people in my position, for instance, who are new to podcasting, when I first started off podcasting, it was just me. I didn't have any guests. I didn't know what I was doing. My microphone was horrible. I could tell you all of the stuff right that was going wrong instead of focusing on, wow, you got started. And then I started to focus on more positive things because I know that your reticular activation system expands whatever it is that you focus on. So I like that idea of trying to ignore those negative thoughts and focus on the positive thoughts and just being a positive force in the universe. But you also talked about, and I think it might be challenging for some people to sort through those thoughts if we're having 50,000 thoughts every single day. But a lot of people, it seems like, might just be kind of haphazardly going through life and aren't even really aware of their conscious or their subconscious thinking. So, how do you help people to start managing that?
Yeah, well, the first thing they have to do is be on the app. It's like the person that has a book, right? Oh, buy me a book, buy me a book,
Right.
because we help folks. And the idea is that recognizing that people, they just don't want to do a lot of work. They like a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
leisure activities, like, oh man, look at this video. This person
Yeah.
in the Popeyes just, reached over the counter and dumped their drink on the worker, on the person at the counter. And look, there are companies that, the goal is to make money. And this goes back to traditional television. The
Mm-hmm.
goal was to get people to your program, to watch your program, so that the advertisers, who was the main client, and the main focus, will have an opportunity to reach as many people as they possibly can. And and so folks are, really pulled in various directions that may not be in their best interests. And so with
Right.
power thinking, we're in that lineup of notifications that they're getting. The notification that comes from YouTube that may not be a
Mm-hmm.
positive thing. It may not be the Coach Carrie notification that we get. It may be,
Right.
a TikTok that Well, it may not be so positive, but it's viral. It's
Mm-hmm.
viral. So our job in Power Thinking was to, number one, have a position of have real estate on people's phones with the most valuable assets that they have. They're looking at them all the time, worldwide. I don't care if you're in Tokyo, Japan, you're in Africa. People are looking at their devices. And so we want to be there as well with that P, our P logo, uh, and folks will see, and they click that. We're not going to take them to some drama
Mm-hmm.
right,
Right.
that can just kind of play on the negativity that's already in our head, but
Mm-hmm.
something to break it up. A positive quote, our power thinking boost in the morning. Our positive affirmation in the afternoon, our financial tip. Again, these are, many times come with links that are just 60 seconds, just a
Mm-hmm.
quick dose of something to break up, the negative thoughts. So folks need help.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do it on their own because, companies, we talk about positive psychology and so forth, but as we speak, there are folks who are being hired and have been hired within the past month who have psychology backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
who are working for companies with massive social media platforms,
Yes.
who are asking those folks, I need you to come on board so you can help us figure out how to get deeper in people's heads
Mm-hmm.
with what we want them to do, which is be drawn to our sites, sites that you say, okay, we're a news site, we're giving you the news. Cardi B, just criticize so and so,
Right.
and so, oh my goodness, oh, what's that all about? And you get to
Mm-hmm.
the page, and there are a few sentences, and there's all kinds of advertising around
Mm-hmm.
because that was really the goal. And then after you finish the story, it's like that wasn't really much of a story.
Right.
And how much of that do we get every single day?
A
So
lot.
we're there to help to counter that, being that small voice to say, oh, wait a minute, you know, today is a good day.
Mm-hmm.
You do have power. You can step out there and dream big and accomplish those dreams. And by the way, here's a skill we're going to focus on. And we have a video accompanying that. Here's what optimism looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what avoiding thinking traps look like. Here, this past week, was the ABC model, created by Dr. Permanent psychologist, another father of cognitive behavioral therapy, Dr. Albert Ellis,
Mm.
where he helped people, and this is part of our awareness skills, being more aware of those 50,000 thoughts and the underlying beliefs that are driving those thoughts. Being aware of the adversity, the activating event. I gave that example about being cut off on the road when you're driving down and looking forward
Yeah.
to having a great day. And all of a sudden, somebody comes in, boom, jumps, and you have to put on the brakes to let them in. And and what you think, what the average person thinks is,
Mm-hmm.
they did this to me. I had a right because when you're angry, it's a belief that somebody violated your rights. I had a right to ride down this road on my way to work, thinking positive thoughts, listening to my favorite music, and getting into the office and starting off with your day. And you did this to me. You ruined that. They'll spend the rest of their day talking.
Upset.
Anybody they come in contact with, the water cooler, walking down the hall, this so and so cut me off on the road, and you know I
Right.
shouldn't have gotten emotional, but I can't help it. They did this to me. They pressed my buttons. They triggered me. That
Mm-hmm.
is the A, that activating event. And
Mm-hmm.
typically people go directly to the C, to the negative emotion, to the anger, or sadness. And what's missing, and this is what's so beautiful about this, and all the psychologists, you talk to a therapist, a psychologist, they know about this. It's what they're taught in school. What's missing is the B in that ABC.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't go directly to a C. There's a B in between the A and the C that has the power because it's what we believe about what happened to us
Mm-hmm.
that will then determine if we have, a very intense negative emotion or no negative emotion at all.
Mhm.
Another person having the same thing experience, somebody cuts them off on the road abruptly may think, oh my goodness, I hope they get to their destination safely. Perhaps they're running late for a meeting. Perhaps they have a loved one in the hospital, and
Mhm.
they might have much time to live. This likely has nothing to do with me. No negative emotion.
Mhm.
And they can go in, even though the same thing that happened to somebody else happened to them, and that person had their day ruined or ruined their own day. The person didn't ruin the day, they ruined their own day because of
Yep.
how they responded. This person goes in, yeah, it was just a blip. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so true because sometimes people will say negative things. I choose to respond in kindness and love. People say mean things or unkind things, and I'll say, I love you. We're friends. Let's work through whatever the situation is. But when it's somebody you don't know and you feel like you've been wronged, I used to be the type of person that would go to work and find anybody that would listen to say, oh, guess about this terrible thing that happened to me. But I just remember playing that game as a kid, and I know I probably talk about this on every episode of Carrie Connects because it rings true. We used to sit in the car when my parents were traveling, and we would play that game. It was six of us, and I'm the oldest of six children, and we would say, let's look for the blue car. And there were no blue cars anywhere in sight. We would just pick a color seemingly randomly. And then all of a sudden, all of the cars were blue. And we didn't know as children, but that was our reticular activation system at work. And so now when somebody cuts me off, I do exactly what you just talked about. I hope they get to their destination safely. And sometimes you mentioned also that people are in their car listening to their music on their way to work. I rarely listen to music now in my car. I'm listening to any type of self development, any type of audiobook. So my mind frame just stays in a positive place most of the time, regardless of what's going on around me. And a lot of people have said to me, well, these things have happened to you. How do you stay so positive? And it's really just focusing on the positive. And the Power Thinking app is so powerful because you're 1,000% correct. Every 5 seconds or even less than that, you get these negative messages, and it's so refreshing to have a positive message pop up on your phone in your notifications. I have all of my notifications for every single app, even though I use them all: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Substack. All of my notifications are off with the exception of the Power Thinking app because that's the one that I want to see. The other apps, I'll see them when I see them. And I try to control what goes into my subconscious and into my conscious mind. Now, I have to ask you this because everybody's talking about this word. And I was a guest on your show. Actually, you were my first podcast event that I attended. You're the first person that invited me to be on a podcast. So thank you for
I'm
that.
honored. I'm honored.
Thank, no,
And
I'm
like I
honored.
shared with you, how I get so much, I'm so gratified when people are elevating, and
Hmm.
I just watched you just ascend. And the thing is that you're not done yet. So I mean,
Oh,
you're just
thank
getting
you.
started. So I'm really proud of you and honored that we were the first show that you appeared on.
Thank you. And that show was about financial resiliency. And I feel like since that show, because now it's in my reticular activation system, everybody is talking about resilience. So give me your definition. What is like bouncing back? What does that look like in real life?
Yeah. Well, so we have what most people, and I have a chart, and actually I have this demo that airs on a bunch of platforms, LinkedIn included, 8 a.m. and it's a replay, 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and then 8 p.m. So 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern time, and
Mm-hmm.
it just repeats. And I have this chart in this slide that tells it all. Most of us I would venture to say all of us as human beings, life is short, and we want to go through life with no drama. with no issues.
Would love it.
And it's like nice and smooth. That's what we want. And we're really happy when we're in that place where there is peace and everything is moving along like this. But that is not life.
Not life.
Life goes, and we have on that slide a squiggly line like this. There are the ups and downs. And as much as we pride ourselves in controlling things to ensure that we think to ensure that our life goes like this,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
a big storm comes, and we had this last week in the Harrisburg area, and 100-year-old plus trees were being toppled and falling into buildings, and people were filing, insurance claims, and they had lost electricity for days. Didn't anticipate that, and typically that happens, in Oklahoma, but it really, but at some point, and what we say with power thinking when we get started is that it's not a question of if something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It is the question of when. So, in terms of resilience, it is so important for every single human being because we all will experience an adversity, at least one.
Yeah.
But chances, many other, and it could come in any form, any direction. I talked about bad weather. It could be a health event. Everything's great, and all of a sudden you're hit,
Don't
with
I
some
know
adversity.
it? Yeah.
You're 25 years in a job, and you've moved up, and you're doing well, and people actually describe you as, you're the person. I was just speaking with someone, a friend of mine who was the key executive at Merck, and Tuesday he will be the chief learning officer at McDonald's and in
Mm.
charge of really elevating, their performance. And these are all good, but then there are other folks. While my friend was just found this tremendous opportunity and was at a tremendous company and at another tremendous company, as someone has put in a great amount of time and effort and has ascended an organization, and all of a sudden it may have happened yesterday, Friday,
Mm-hmm.
tapped on the
Mm-hmm.
shoulder just before leaving and saying, we really hate to do this. We appreciate everything you've done, but this is your last day. So on your way out to in a few minutes, you want to make sure you take as many of your belongings as possible. Your email will be cut off, and all access.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And security will be here to walk you out. How is your weekend going to be? Or, and this is even worse, or it could be. At least people will feel this way. If the boss taps you on the shoulder at 4:30 p.m., you usually leave at 5, and the boss says, "I need to talk to you Monday morning.
Oh.
Have a great weekend."
Oh
What's
no.
going through your mind? And I look, and it doesn't matter. All over the world, human beings have the same response. I did this with my folks in Beijing and Chongqing, China, and I'd ask adults, and through a translator, you know, um, how would you feel? How would the weekend be? Oh no, I'm going to get fired. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Japan, we have the same responses. So, with what we do with the app, we help people to be aware that these automatic responses are natural, and it's our job now to be aware of them, to be able to push back, to question, and not get as emotional, especially when it comes to the negative emotion, because it could be Monday morning you step in, they go, "Oh yes, I hope you had a great weekend." Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we just appreciate everything you've done, and you saw that such and such person, this person left, and they're serving as a vice president, and we want to put you in that position. We think
Mm-hmm.
you've earned it, and you're going, "Oh my gosh, my weekend was horrible. I did not anticipate getting such great news." Um, so we have to be careful, not to get too high, but definitely not to do what the average person does, is get too low and think the worst of a situation. Just last week when we talked about the ABC skill, my co-host gave an example of how he called a friend and they were going to have a conversation, and so he texted the person later and didn't get a text back, didn't get a response, and then he called again and didn't get a response, and so his thinking was, hey, this person's trying to ignore me, and he actually sent a text, I think you're trying to ignore me. But it's natural. It's what we do. And then things can escalate from something like that. And we've had many friendships and relationships that have been torn asunder as a result of erroneous thinking.
Absolutely.
Through our app, we're helping I call this on the 30-minute sessions that we do at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily, join the movement. This is a movement to help people to recognize that we don't have to go through, the negativity and the negative emotions that can, disable us, and immobilize us. We don't have to go through that. There's a power that we have within us that we need to be more aware of, we can tap into, and our app helps them do that.
The app is really, really great for doing that. And I saw the episode that you're speaking of with ABC and the young man.
Yes, you saw the replay. Yes,
yeah,
thank
I
you.
did. And I saw live and I saw the replay. But I think it's hilarious because I remember being a public school teacher. And of course, sometimes over the intercom, I would hear, Miss Willis, come to the office to the principal. And I'm like, and I'm the teacher, right? So I stayed in trouble though, but that's besides the point. But I just remember having those feelings when they would call my name over the intercom system, even as the teacher. And so I understand that apprehension sometimes carries. And I remember one time I finished teaching my class and I went there to talk to the principal and they said, oh, she left for the day. And I did have that whole weekend. I was like, oh my God, what does she want? What could it possibly be? And when I went back to work on Monday, it was absolutely nothing. It was actually, like you said, something really positive. But
Right.
that apprehension is real. That type of stress
It
that
is.
people feel is absolutely real. So if you all have not seen that episode, I encourage you to go back and watch it. Go to Stanley's channel. All of his links are at the bottom. And watch that replay about ABC. It was absolutely hilarious. Great, great information. So let's switch gears a little bit
Sure.
and let's talk about Japan,
Sure.
which I have yet to visit. Now, I know you started over there, you mentioned earlier, as a guest lecturer. And then I introduced you as a master trainer who co-founded a school for business leaders in Tokyo. I want to know, how did that come about? How does a guy from Philly end up doing that?
Yeah. Well, it happened through an adversity, and there have been many things that have turned out to be great that happened through adversity. So while I was with the Pennsylvania Treasury as a deputy treasurer, um, working on, trying to get a financial literacy bill passed, legislation passed. And by the way, that was 2014. And finally, in 2023, it was passed after I was long gone. And starting in the fall, every senior in Pennsylvania, high school senior, required to take one financial literacy course. But while I was with the Treasury, I was on the board of a company called Advanced Path Academics. It was looking to, and actually was working in various school districts around the U.S. to elevate people, folks who dropped out of school, right, and they're out there, maybe home, they're just not doing anything, and get them back into an environment that they created within that same school where they can focus on getting caught up and then graduating on time. And they were in jeopardy of losing a contract. And I didn't know that part when I was asked to come in as CEO. So they wanted to bring me in as CEO to try to get the person that was pretty much a school district superintendent that had a significant amount of the business and provided a significant amount of revenue. They essentially were looking for me to save it, but they didn't tell me that. I didn't realize we were in that position. That CEO told us some things and tell us the other. So, and
Mm-hmm.
others. So I was there as CEO for a few months, and then realized we that contract was done. So I had to step back out. But that gave me the opportunity to focus full time because I was doing power thinking on a part time basis, experimenting with trying to sell the 6 hour course and so forth. So that gave me, and that was about 2016, gave me the opportunity to then focus full time on power thinking. And so one of the first things
Mm.
I did was I had a mailing list that I acquired with all the other domain names and all the other assets of the company that we acquired. I had
Mm-hmm.
this list of global um, positive psychology experts, folks who had their master's degrees in positive psychology and so forth. So, and I didn't realize who was on it. I just sent out an email because now I'm focused on power thinking, and I said, I'm available. The subject line, uh, global leadership training, and
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm available for any training anywhere in the world on resilience and leadership and so forth. And I got an email back from the director of the Japan Positive Psychology Association. And he
Wow.
said, we would love to have you out here in Tokyo to come out and do a course. The first thing we want you to do is the Japanese, the U.S. Army, and I have one of our new Power Thinking members a couple of weeks ago. I had her on to talk about the resilience training that they received from the same organization, Penn, the University of Penn, um, in the army.
Mm.
And so the Japanese were aware of this kind of training that was being done, in the United States. So she had me the first presentation I ever did, my slides that I created uh, for Power Thinking. The first presentation was to the Japanese. It's not called the military, but essentially it was their defense forces, high
Mm-hmm.
level
Mm-hmm.
people. I didn't speak any Japanese other than Ohio gozaimasu,
Right.
is good morning. That's all I can do. And so the person who headed up the Japan Positive Psychology Association, who invited me out there, she was my translator. And so she would start it off, and then I'd come up and she would translate. And so I had to remember just every few sentences to wait until she.
Right.
And so I'm walking up the steps. I'll never forget. My first presentation in Japan, and it's like going to the Pentagon. To
Mm.
talk to the high level officials at the
Wow.
Pentagon. So then the next situation I had was to CEOs and executive directors who were taking part in a 2 day, you know, um, resilience workshop. And I
Mm-hmm.
was the instructor, and my partner who invited me out there, Carrie, um, she translated it. 2 days of total translation, and they absolutely loved it. And the way we started, and I'll share this, I thought it would be unique because we had 2 days, and I said I want
Mm-hmm.
to do more as an introduction than just saying, okay, my name is so and so. Let's go around the room and let us know who you are,
Yeah.
where you come from. I said I want you to share your most crushing adversity, one of them. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
start with one of mine. And I shared it. And then they each shared. And it was mind blowing
Mm-hmm.
because here were
Mm-hmm.
folks who were leading companies and had a smile on their face, but when they shared that crushing adversity, and it surprised their colleagues, and then they just shared, each one,
Mm-hmm.
shared that. And what it showed was that we all, not just people in the U.S., but
Mm-hmm.
all over the world, as we speak, there are folks who are going through crushing adversity. And
Yeah.
the thing is that they can bounce back and bounce back faster, if they're equipped with what we teach with power thinking.
That's true. I agree 100% that the bounce back factor is greatly enhanced when you are using the Power Thinking app. And I love that story of how you got to Philly. I just believe in alignment. So, how you got from Philly to Japan, what seemed like adversity, sometimes people say our setbacks are really setting us up for a comeback.
That's
And
right.
so I love that. Now, not only have you trained people in Japan, but you've also, I know you talked about working at Verizon, but I know you've also trained different leaders and different agents at Aflac and Merck and Comcast. I mentioned that during your introduction as well. Is there something that these large corporations are not getting exactly right about pressure and about the people that they're hiring and working with?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And for me, it goes back decades, many decades,
Oh.
with the telephone company where they would, they said, okay, we want to change our culture. And they had this little theme called Up with People because it is, and they would say, people are our most important asset. That's our
Mm-hmm.
theme. And we have these company values and a mission and all of that. Um, but everything other than what they said, everything that touched employees was opposite of what they
Mm-hmm.
said they were all
Yeah.
about.
Yep.
Yeah. And that concerned me. And when I left, and I had the responsibility for an entire series of operations, the entire company. It was a small company, it was a cable operation. So I was the general manager. So I was over installation and repair and customer service and engineering and construction. And I was able to create the kind of culture that the big companies said that they really wanted. Because
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, with companies, especially public companies, their real goal is to make sure that they're meeting those numbers
Right.
set forth, by, the analysts and the investors, and so they may say this, but that
Mm-hmm.
they may have to do things counter to what they say in
Yeah.
order to meet the next quarter's objectives,
Mm-hmm.
including, cutting out the course that's about people, and helping them to elevate. And so they'll call it, well, these are soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was nice to have, but we really don't need it. We really need to buckle down and get done what we tell them to get done, you know, even though they're stressed out and so forth and so
Right.
on. So companies need to learn. And so when I came in and I ran that cable company, and I told you it was ranked number 11 out of 13 cable systems that was
Mm-hmm.
in that area, and we moved it to number two. We didn't do it by focusing on the numbers. We did it by focusing on the people. And that I do power thinking today in part because of that experience I had many years ago, where we proved that you can focus on the people and create an environment for them where they can thrive and look forward to coming to work every day and go above and beyond to hit the objectives. That you can
Mm-hmm.
do this and see numbers that people never thought could happen. I mean, this company was in Wallingford, Pennsylvania, and they called it Wally World. And I never knew where they got that from until I watched this movie. I think it was Vacation, or maybe the sequel to Vacation, and they were on this trip, this vacation to go to kind of a Disneyland, but it was called Wally World, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
just really crazy place, and that's what they called this. And we went from the bottom to the top, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just amazing. So I said, this works. It's not just touchy feely, nicey stuff. It's stuff that can actually get companies to see results that they never dreamed possible. So I know that's possible, and that's what companies are getting wrong. Um, Many of them just don't realize just how far they can go by
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on the people.
Yeah, I think focusing on people is extremely important and definitely something that can translate in companies, but also in social media. A lot of times people are looking at likes, they're counting how many comments they have, and they're not really focused on the people. So I love that Carrie Connects is about meeting with people and sharing people who I feel like are doing really positive things in the community with the rest of the world, regardless of the likes, regardless of the comments, regardless of the shares. It's really about the people, because if you get caught up in just we have to meet these numbers and we have to meet these quotas and you forget about people, a lot of times I think that's how you lose people. So how can you change your thinking to change your results?
Right. Well, I think, and I agree with you. I don't follow. I don't chase the algorithms
You can't. It
because
changes
the
every 5 minutes.
algorithms are designed to get people on their site. And you say,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, well, yeah, that's natural. Not necessarily to enrich people, because if I created a news organization years ago that was purchased by Comcast. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that really concerned me about that whole news thing was that they had a saying in news: if it bleeds, it leads.
Oh wow.
So if it's something tragic, it's going to be the top of the news. You got to do that because the ultimate goal is not just to inform, it's to get people watching your broadcast. And how do you get
Mm-hmm.
that? Hey, there was a disaster here. This person shot. This person. That was the result of an argument. Or look, when we were only 3 weeks old, one of the biggest negative events in the United States happened.
Mm.
That was the beginning of this trend of what is now mass shootings.
Yeah.
It was in April of 1999, and it was Columbine.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 weeks after we went on the air, that happened. And what were we doing? Oh, all right, producers. People would be, flocking to the channel to watch it. Um, and here, there's certain ways. If you look at the thumbnails on a lot of YouTube shows, they have big yellow letters, and it's usually something negative to try to get people's
Mm-hmm.
attention. Um, and it's just, and guess what? They get thousands of
Oh,
views,
absolutely.
and I'm just not going to play that game. And I commend you. We'll just try to find another way. I mean, I'll just have things going on often. If I get one person like this young lady from India who watched the demo of the app last night and said some incredible things about power thinking and what she said this movement was all about. The things that you share, those are the things that inspire me to go on. I don't need, 10,000 likes,
Right.
reaction, but the one that's quality says, okay, I'm reaching another person in the world who gets this. And
Mm-hmm.
we do it one at a time, but we're going to do it our way, being positive and focusing on positive content.
You absolutely have to focus on positive content, positive vibes, being a positive force in the universe. And so, speaking of that, I know that there are people who may be watching right now who feel like, you talked about those fights and those things that we see pop up on social media. But somebody feels like that in their personal life, like they're just taking hit after hit after hit, and they really feel like giving up. What would you say to them?
Well, I can sound like a person that is um, just trying to sell my app, and that's not it
Mm-hmm.
because we give a free trial. We price it. The lowest price point is $5 a month. From somebody who goes with the annual plan. Take advantage of this. We put a lot of work into it. There's another level we're going to be taking this to. Um, but take advantage of things like the Power Thinking Corp app. Go in YouTube and look for positive content. Think and Grow Rich is something that I've always go back to. It was something I discovered back in the 80s, and when I started listening to that, again, our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It is about our thinking. You know, it. there was a decade where I was just going, like gangbusters, to the point where at the end of the decade, well, I won't mention a number, but I went from, some like $40,000 to some incredible number.
Mm.
But it was the thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were talking about, I would have like an hour, 15-minute drive to work. No music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to tapes, and back then we were talking tapes.
Right.
And but nowadays on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
but be conscious of feeding your mind. And I remember this from uh, uh, a gentleman by the name of Brian Tracy, and he would talk about rich mental protein.
Mm.
Feeding, like, you should be feeding yourself with the right foods. You need to be feeding yourself with the right mental foods. Power thinking is just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie connects and all the things that you do is another. Get around positive people. Listen to positive content. And that's a tough thing because we've all been programmed
Yeah.
to watch the drama, the thriller,
Mm-hmm.
the thing where people are being harmed, and it's just the way it is. And nobody does it better than the USA. You watch Netflix and you'll watch films, and they're just slow. Here, within the first few seconds, somebody's getting blown up or shot at, and then
Before they even show the name of the movie. Yeah.
so let's just switch it up, folks.
Let's just switch it up. And I love that. And you're absolutely right. We have to be mindful of what we are feeding ourselves. There's your financial health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional health. And so we definitely have to be aware of the things that we are putting in our bodies, the things that we are putting in our minds as well. So, what is one thing, one power thinking practice that people can start this week? Well,
Yeah,
first
and
I
this
would
is
say download the app, but then after that, what else can they do?
yeah, putting things in perspective, in life. It's not all bad. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so recognize that we have to embrace the good. So the one exercise before going to bed every night, I put this out on the app last night. So hey, before going to bed, do this. Write down 3 good things that happened today. You don't have to wait until tonight. You're listening to me now. Uh, Write it down, or you just think about it. What 3 good things happened so far today,
Mm-hmm.
so that you are countering those negative thoughts and that negative event that you'll tend subconsciously to be dwelling on. And then
Mm-hmm.
you get to the point where at night you're going, oh boy, I hope tomorrow was a better day than what I had today, because what happened to me getting cut off on the road like that was absolutely horrible, and I was so angry. But there were good things that happened today as
Mm-hmm.
well. 3 good things before going to bed every night.
I absolutely love that. And so I just want to give a quick shout out before we end the show. I like to do what I call Carrie Connects Chat Champions, and we had some really great people in our audience that were really engaged and that were saying hello. And so Linda Meyer wants to say hello to both of us. Hi, Linda. Thank you for
I love
being
it.
here. Jay Trevetti is saying hello to everyone, and we appreciate you being here, Jay. Pipi Torre, hola, mi amigos. I'm so happy that he is here from Mexico visiting with us. Linda
Wonderful.
is in Ontario, Canada. And we have Zakia Ringgold, who is here as well, saying hello.
Hi, Zakia.
And also Mr. Merrill Cass,
Merrill,
yeah,
North
saying
Jersey.
hi from North Jersey. Melanie Richards, and I really appreciate her being
Hey,
here because I know this is the weekend. She's spending time with her mom, but I appreciate that she took the time to pop on and
yes,
say hello. We
yes.
have Miss Leslie Flowers. You talked about,
2 new members
uh,
in a row.
yeah, you talked about Think and Grow Rich, which is one of my favorite books, and she talks about that on her podcast
Does a
as
great
well.
job.
Does an amazing job. And another person who does an amazing job is America's Supermom.
Supermom.
All right. Michelle Atkins. And then we even have Joshua Lee, who is
Hey,
in the
Joshua.
building. And
Oh
Miss
my
Lisa
goodness,
Fevick.
Lisa.
Now, I'm not going to be able to get through everybody because we're already over the hour. But Felipe, I think this is
Felipe.
my first time seeing Felipe at one of my shows, so I'm happy
There
to
you
see.
go.
Maybe not. He used to come to my financial shows, but I'm not doing those anymore. So hey, Felipe, I switched it up on you. It's not Sunday. Glad you found me on Saturdays for Carrie Connect. So hey, Felipe.
Felipe.
Glad to see that you are here. And Candace is just checking in. So grateful that
Okay.
Candace is in the building. She's a mobile notary, and so she's just getting her business launched. So super happy
Great.
that she took the time to say hello. And then, of course, the one and only, Mr. Kenneth Dunner
Yes.
Jr.
Sugarland, Texas.
Always telling people to savor the flavor. And then we have Miss Leanna. She says better
Hey,
late
Duluth.
than never. So she's going to be a part of Team Replay. And we appreciate that. Whether you are here live or whether you are here as a part of Team Replay, we really appreciate you all being here. Make sure that you connect with Stan. You can see at the bottom I have all of his contact information. You can connect with him on Facebook, LinkedIn. He also has his website. Download the PowerThinking app. And anything that you want people to connect with you with, anything that you have coming up in the next few weeks that you want us to be a part of, that you want to share?
Well, if we of course we do our Wednesdays 7:30 a.m. 8
Okay.
a.m. Eastern time, and then 9:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. But make it a point 8 a.m. 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check out that demo, that 30-minute demo. We'll give the
Okay.
why and then how the mobile app, the Power Thinking Corp mobile app works, and connect with folks who have the app because they can give you their code and they can generate income, actually cover the costs and even more. People like yourself and Leslie and Melanie, so many that have the app, and I'm proud of each and every one of you. Thank you for doing that. And Coach Carrie, thank you so much for having me.
Ah,
This has been amazing. You're doing amazing work, and like I said, you're just scratching the surface of where you're going to be ultimately with all of this. So congratulations and keep up the great work.
thank you. I appreciate that. Next week, we are doing Carrie Connects Community Circle. This is National Fibroid Awareness Month. So I have a medical doctor coming, some other panelists, and we're going to talk about fibroid awareness on
Hmm.
Carrie Connects. It'll be my first community circle, my first time having a panel. Don't know how it's going to work out behind the scenes, but that's the mission. And so we will see you all next Saturday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great Saturday. Bye for now.
Okay.
Hey, hey, welcome in. Let the good vibes all begin. Something good is about to happen. Sure. I've been waiting on you. Got a seat with your name. Started with a coffee chat. Now we about to change the game. You got a story worth telling, and I got a room full of ears. So drop whatever you've been holding. Get ready because your time is here. Because when real people talk to real people, something shifts. When real stories meet real listeners, something lifts. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it past. Sure. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects. This is your moment. Come near where every story intersects and every heart connects. From a coffee chat to the main stage, just bring who you are. Carrie Connects. Carrie Connects. Connection is the start. Carrie Connects. Entrepreneurs, voices, friends, where inspiration never ends. You did not come this far just to sit in the back. Everything you walk through was getting you ready for that. So step into the week with something shifts. And real stories meet real lips and does something lips. Every Saturday we show up and we bring our best. Show up to Carrie Connects and leave it bright. Show up. Something is happening here. Carrie Connects. Carrie Connects. This is your moment. Come near where every story intersects and every heart connects. So the coffee chat to the main stage. Just bring who you are. Carrie Connects. Carrie Connects. And that shine in the sky. We started over coffee just to see if it was real.